Welcome. Welcome to my home in beautiful Carmel Valley. And I'm going to be reading chapter 2 of Teachings of Yama. And I hope you like it. And if you do, please press that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. So chapter 2. Vision of the times. Why does man suffer? Delusion. With a wave of Yama's arm, we stood upon the top of a high mountain. Behold the world, said Yama, a world with many worlds within. I saw upon the plains below 2 cities, enormous, each spreading to the horizon. Dark smoke spewed into the air, the river running between them fouled with fish belly up, bobbing upon the surface. In each of the cities I saw a youth donning black and wearing ornaments of skulls. They snorted white powder up their noses and shot hot fire into their veins, and copulated in alleys strewn with garbage, while their parents sat staring into glowing boxes, flashing images of blood and rape into their minds. I saw distinguished-looking men in shining conference rooms talk about destroying a forest to help increase their corporate take, while younger men in a warehouse talked about whom to rob and kill this night. I saw generals and colonels with their shining medals peer over maps and pointing their fingers at where to strike. I saw their armies line up between the 2 cities, and I heard the battle cries and the roar of the war machinery. Then I heard the screams of the wounded and dying and the cheering of the victors, and I saw the blood like a river disappear into the earth. I turned away and looked at Yama. Are these the ones who worship you? Are these your devotees? No, these are not my devotees. They do not even honor me. They are the devotees of my shadow, for they worship only their puny selves who move upon the earth with greedy mouths, devouring all that they can. And so I devour them. They know not who I am, only what I appear to be. Then who are you? You whom all people fear. Ah, who am I really? That is for the end of this dream. Now ask me another question. Why do people suffer? Why all this pain? Come with me, and I will show you. No longer upon the mountaintop, we stood behind some trees in a jungle entangled in vines. In front of us was a clearing, into which a well-beaten path led. In the middle of the clearing lay a pit. Why are we here? I asked. He held up his finger for silence. Suddenly the jungle reverberated from the trumpeting of elephants. Then I saw a man, his eyes wide in fear, running down the path, looking over his shoulder to where the trumpeting sounds of the elephants issued. Oh no, I cried, ready to dash out. The pit! The man doesn't see the pit! Yama held my shoulder. Watch. As I feared, the man fell unmindful into the vast pit. With one hand he caught hold of a thick root. The elephants came and ran around the pit in rage. For a moment he felt safe. Then he noticed at the bottom of the pit awaited an enormous serpent, its maw opened wide, its hot breath scorching the man's skin. Then he noticed on the root a rat, which ever chewed upon the root. Above his head he now heard the buzzing of a swarm of angry bees. Just when the man was near despair and ready to let go, a drop of honey fell onto his lips. Tasting so delicious, so sweet, the man forgot his predicament, and holding tightly onto the root with one hand, he held out the other to catch another drop of honey. I turned away, for I could not bear to see the inevitable. Who is he? And what did it all mean? My guide looked at me and smiled, touching my chest. He is you. He is everyone. He is anyone who believes he is but a body, a pitiful creature encased in decaying flesh. He runs upon the path of life, running through the tangled jungle of lifetimes of habits and impressions, likes and dislikes. The elephants are his desires pursuing him, trumpeting in fear of non-fulfillment. The pit is hope. The root he hangs on to is his good deeds of other lifetimes. Gnawing upon it is the rat of time. Below him in the vast bottomless pit awaits the serpent of passions, lust, and anger. Buzzing around his head are the bees of his thoughts, ready to sting him any moment and send him down into the waiting jaws. Yet the man forgets all these dangers, all this suffering, and holds on tighter, just for another sweet taste of pleasure the mind has made. Instead of running upon the path over and over again, falling into the same pit with each new lifetime, from that path he could leave. He could say that this path he wants no more. However, he remembers the taste of honey, and so he continues. No one causes man to run that path and to suffer. I bow to Yama in gratitude for this lesson. How else I've been deluded? He smiled. Come with me. We left the man to his fate and followed the path to a village. Upon the path lay a large rope. We saw a group of children running from the village in our direction. Quickly, said Yama, hide behind these bushes. As we crouched behind a bush, he held on to one end of the rope. Unseen by the approaching children, he began to wiggle it. The children stopped and giggled. Then, one by one, with peals of laughter, they began to jump over the undulating rope, avoiding its touch. Yama and I could hardly stifle our laughter as the joyous sight of these happily playing children. Suddenly, we heard shouts of warning from the village. All the adults of the village ran frantically towards the children, gesticulating madly for them to come back to them. The children stopped playing and became silent. Mothers and fathers grabbed at their children's hands and then roughly pulled the crying children back to the village. We emerged from our hiding place. I looked at Yama with puzzlement. Then I noticed an old man standing to the side of the path. He bowed to us with folded hands, smiling. He then turned and with a shaking head walked back to the village. Please explain to me, respected teacher, what I saw. What I held was the rope of creation, its fibers consisting of every world, every form made and to be made. Supreme happiness and outright joy made it dance and move. All movement is this joy. The children, seeing with the eyes of innocence, saw the rope for what it was, and quite naturally joined in the joyous dance. The adults, I asked, what about them? They seemed afraid, except the old man. Indeed, fear was the lens through which they looked upon the rope. They saw not a rope, but an enormous serpent, ready to devour their children, the serpent of separation. Believing each to be separate from everything else, seeing themselves as their bodies, these adults can only look upon the world in fear. And the grabbing of their children and pulling them back to their village, to lock them in their classrooms, to teach them about the serpent, they do in the name of love. Yet it is only out of fear. And these children will grow up to be adults, wearing the glasses of fear. Yet that old man seemed different. He wasn't afraid, I said. The old man, eh? Yama said, wearing a delightful smile. There are a few, so very few, who do not look upon the world as a snake, but see it as it is with the eyes of a child. These ones are no longer adults, nor are they children, although they will act as both at different times. They stand beyond anything we can say of them, anything we can call them. They are the ones for you to seek out, to keep company, and to serve a while, for they will see you as you truly are. Where are they? I said excitedly. How can... Yama raised his hands. Wait, wait, all in good time. Yama said, you asked about delusions. While there is only one delusion, it has many faces and is not easily dispelled. Look up the path. I turned and saw a young man coming toward us with purposeful strides. He was dressed for a royal court of India. Yama, who now wore, as I also found myself wearing, a simple white outfit of a renunciant, told me to go up to the man and to ask him where he traveled. I am the royal messenger. The king has sent me to find the prince and to tell him that his father would make him now king, said the stranger. At that moment, a regal-looking man, although dressed in rags, came around the corner. That's him! That's the prince! Cried the messenger, running over to his object of pursuit, and then dropping to touch the prince's feet. We stood by and listened to the messenger, and saw the look of joy in the face of the prince. Tell the king, my father, that I come. And off ran the messenger. Yama said to the prince, So you are returning? Oh yes, it is time for me to come home. Yama asked if we may accompany him upon the journey, and the young man was grateful for the company. We walked away as the eyes of the prince focused on the path ahead. For a long while he walked thus, silent, seeing nothing but the path leading to his father. Suddenly a twitch arose in his neck, and involuntarily he looked over to the right. He saw, just off the path, a beautiful cluster of crystals. He fell to his knees to peer closer. Oh, how magnificent are these stones! I have never seen the like before. I must study them, so I may know these marvels of nature. And so he sat, his focus completely on these crystals. For a long while we waited. Finally, Yama went over and whispered in his ears, Forget anything. My father, said the prince, slapping himself in the head. He jumped up and once more, with focused attention, walked upon the path toward his father. Yet it was not long before another twitch arose, and he saw to the left a group of celestial maidens bathing. And after some time of sporting with these heavenly damsels, again Yama had to go and remind the prince about his goal. And so it was, again and again, twitches arising and the prince stopping to studying animals, going into a library, learning a martial art, memorizing and chanting scriptures, going off on pilgrimages, conversing with gods, on and on. We finally left him as he was learning how to cook. Will he ever make it? I asked Yama. Oh yes, eventually, with my prodding, that if he learns to ignore those twitches. Where do these twitches arise? From where do these twitches arise, I asked. Those twitches arise from habits of many lifetimes. They're like old interests bubbling up to the surface. Bubbles, if you will. The challenge is to ignore them so as to let them pop. If you do not ignore them, it reinforces the habits, and sometimes down the road, again the twitch will arise. And even harder will it be to ignore. Will the king give up on his son and offer it to someone else? Never. For the king forever sees the son upon the throne and has all eternity to wait. The only one who suffers is the son, for my reminders are not always enjoyable, especially when he does not want to leave an interest. That is, if he becomes attached to his studies. I bowed. I understand. Delusion is all around. Vainly man goes here and there for something he thinks offers happiness, all the while finding suffering as its shadow. Yet are there not any who see through these veils? Well, that brings us back to the old man and his kind. So thank you. Have a great, blessed day. And by the way, this is Monkey, my cat. Farewell.